just as of like yesterday evening. Because on the one hand, like a lot of people need to hedge, and I'm so grateful that I can do this now. Because to be honest, as you said, like holy Jesus, like the USD has rode like a wave of shit like for this year. I even remember like the euro and US dollar being at par like 1.5 years ago, and now it's like a 16, 17% discount like to visit the US. So great play there, and I think, but this is more like reading the tea leaves here. Um, Actually, if you look at the regulator of the FX markets, it's literally the CFTC. So listing the FX markets on Lighter could be actually a spot towards a little bit more regulation, and the CFTC, which I think just got the new head back a week ago or so. I think you posted about it, Satoshi. So actually, if they dropped it on the platform, this could mean, but I'm just reading into it here, that they are like in talks with the regulator, and maybe this could become like a much bigger entity or body from a regulation standpoint, which could lead the way also for adoption in stocks which are yet regulated and options by the CFTC, sorry, SEC. But I think the case isn't still clear if cryptos are nominated as a commodity or a stock, and if so, options could be like, as you said before, Satoshi, like very near. So really hyped about it. And also
It
about
is.
the funding fee.
It is. Well, so I work closely with the CFTC for my IRL job. And yes, you're right. They got a new head. So Caroline's out. Vlad has a very deep network. I mean, 3 weeks ago, he was getting shout out from Vlad at Robinhood. Obviously, shoot, I'm blanking on all the other ones. There's so many. But yeah, like, so I wouldn't be surprised if Vlad has some friends over at the CFTC as well. But we're like technically, so we had a spaces with the CEO of Ostium was on there. I forgot who hosted it. It was someone who I recently followed on X or Twitter, and Martin Garelli. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He was asking a lot of SEC and CFTC related questions because Hyperliquid had just released equity perps on, I think, NASDAQ. I think there's other ones like Tesla that I saw, and they're offering high leverage. And a broker dealer, if you want to be making markets or like offering these products to trade, you typically need to have like a broker dealer license to do this with the SEC. And obviously, Hyperliquid doesn't have that. But then it's like you get into this discussion of like, okay, how much volume is there? Is it that big of a market? Because we saw Mirror Protocol with Luna. Am I getting that right? It was Mirror with Luna, right? So that was live in 2021. There wasn't that much volume, and it was a little clunky. It didn't the matching like wasn't always one for one with the prices. But nonetheless, you could have bought spot Tesla on Luna back in 2021. Now it's like this perp product, which has a funding fee attached to it. And we were discussing that at length in the other spaces with shoot, I'm blanking on his name. It was a big one, like
Martin
Kobe.
Shkreli. Hi.
Yeah, Kobe joined even. So, and I was on there. But the truth is, Aztec, there actually is no official like regulation about this. The rule is that if you want to trade these securities, you need to be registered, and I don't know if Hyperliquid has the registration, but I do know that some of the team is actually actively engaged with the regulator. I think they had some comments as well. I'm not as familiar with the exact comments they submitted, but I just want to cap this off because you brought up a good point. I think in Lighter's roadmap, they do want to trade equities on chain in the future at some point, and Vlad had mentioned that on a few podcasts. So one thing I'll just say is that there's a certain point at which these things are so decentralized that I'm not sure how the regulator would even sort of like express their authority over some markets. Like if you're trading a Tesla on chain, you know, you're technically in their purview and like within their quote unquote jurisdiction. The jurisdiction of the SEC and CFTC expands across oceans, even though it's a United States based regulator. That's the thing though with like decentralization. Like, is this a question? Like, if it's so decentralized, is it possible to regulate? And there's no answer to that question right now, or at least not a very straightforward one. And we're
Yeah.
going to get a market structure bill in about 3 weeks, I hope, is what I'm hearing, to clarify like more, to get more clarity on like these types of things.
Yeah, definitely a really good take. So I'm just like throwing a dart out there and saying like Lighter could be one of the really big broker dealers of the future, not like this year, maybe next or the one after, because a little bit more tea leaves into this team, man. If you look at Hyperliquid and their legal counsel, I mean like the head of law things, so to speak of, like they literally hired the ex-head of the CFTC. I mean, you can look up his name, like I forgot it to be honest, but I thought there's something in the bush like last year. And then you have like the Winklevoss twins, I think. They argued heavily against one of the new CFTC chairs, and actually they and a few others like got in the way of that person to be elected. So I think, to be honest, but this is just a little finger pointed direction. It could be at the end the CFTC dominating the crypto sector in regulatory side. But this is still to be, as you said, like still has to be printed on paper and has to go through Congress and the House. But actually, I think there's big things coming up, and actually with Lighter building on the ZK infrastructure and what it enables, like at the point where you can literally put millions of transactions, like downsize them like in one little bit and send them to Ethereum to validate them. Literally, you can scale this up. I wouldn't say infinite, but to a really, really, really big number of transactions, which is possible. The only thing then is like the hardware that is keeping you off. I mean, you have to have the servers, and right now I think I'm not sure about this. I think I heard it once, but I researched it on another venue that Vlad also had his fingers in cryptographic fabric, but this has yet to be confirmed. So this company is literally building chips for the ZK sector, which have like much higher power and density, like to power those transactions. Because I think this will also be a hardware fight. And then literally, if we're like at 10 billion transactions per second via ZK, literally Nasdaq is like old tech at this moment, and you could literally put it on chain and put like all the citadels and so on there without crashing each other's or some bots. But this is like in the future. There's still like a hardware issue, but the scaling is real and it can happen. But yeah, anyway, to that point.
There's a research paper, or sorry, the Nasdaq, which I'm sure every crypto trader has seen or even owns part of. Like sorry, not owns part of, has heard of, has released back a few years